graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
No strings on me. Iron Legion wanna retire, man. No strings on me. Say my name, you know who I am. No strings on me. Am I mad about them Avengers? Break it down. Hulk hits you, hallelujah. Cap hits you, hallelujah. Stark hits you, hallelujah. Cause Ultron Funk gonna give it to ya. Cause Ultron Funk gonna give it to ya. Cause Ultron Funk gonna give it to ya. Gonna tear you apart from the inside. Don't believe me, just watch.
You're listening to Two Strangers, One Podcast. Please visit twostrangersonePodcast.net.
Subscribe to us on iTunes or on the Stitcher app for Android devices. And now, here's Chris Fallon and Paul Pasquillo.
Well, hello and welcome to Two Strangers, One Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Paul.
And if you hear any, sonic booms in the background, it's because...
We're being attacked. We're being invaded here in Rochester, New York.
Well, let me tell you, I am having post-traumatic stress disorder from, I did grow up in Lower East Side, Manhattan, back when the planes hit the towers. But not making a joke here, people. Seriously, we have the fighter pilots, the Blue Angels. They are performing in Rochester this weekend. So what they're doing is they're doing test runs, and we're recording this on a Friday. So they're getting ready for Saturday. And so they've been really flying not low. They have super freaking high powered jets. So it's so weird where I'll hear the planes in his background, and then 2 seconds later they're in my background. That's pretty fucking scary.
Isn't that awesome?
But it's they go, okay, come to the show. Well, the days that they're performing, you don't have to come to the show. You could just look up in the fucking air.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you look up in the sky? Yes. Okay, then you're at the show. There's no reason to, stand out in the middle of your own fucking driveway or your own parking lot. But so if you do hear funky sonic booms in the background, I'm seriously.
It's actually Chris farting.
It's the Blue Angels. I just hope it's not them crashing.
Them crashing?
Well, I'm just saying, these are high-powered jets doing funky maneuvers, and I'd be, when they allow these jets to fly over cities, what's not to say something doesn't go wrong? I'm pretty sure there's a billion safety checks, and these guys are super-duper professional. But anything could happen. They hit a fucking high-flying goose or some shit like that.
High-flying goose? What is wrong with you?
I'm just saying, hopefully we'll get through this podcast without a fucking jet engine falling through my fucking ceiling.
You fucking paranoid asshole.
And that's just my luck. Of all of Rochester, just my apartment would get hit. I do want to welcome the new listeners. I have been hitting social media pretty hard.
That's what she said.
Hitting that pussy real hard. No, but I've been I've been trying to matriculate amongst the internet denzians and trying to find more people to listen to the podcast. So I do want to listen. I do want to welcome any new listeners, and hopefully I'll stop stuttering. And
hopefully we can get through this podcast without you doing that.
Welcome to the podcast. And one thing I do have to say is, recently, anyone who's been listening to the podcast, I've been working overnights. So with me working overnights, that basically means that I have 10 hours of night of free time. Not free time. I'm doing shit. But I've been really, really downloading tons and tons and tons of. I've been downloading so many podcasts that I've been downloading podcasts where I'll hear the same guest from one podcast on another podcast. It's getting like that because I got 10 hours a night to myself to kind of just listen to podcasts. So I've been getting a real roundabout. Of course, there's a billion podcasts out there, and thank you for choosing ours to listen to.
Yes.
But one thing I do have to say is that I guess we should show and not prove, but this is an original podcast. Not saying anything against what Paul does at his other pod. I've been saying podcast a lot, but this isn't dedicated to a show or a video game or there's a lot of podcasts out there that are kind of like they're dedicated to one thing, and it's very, very, it's very, very narrow. And I think we'd like to stay as broad as possible. So, I mean, and of course, don't be wrong, a show like Paul's other baby, the Tsunami Faithful podcast, I mean, of course it has its place, and it's a good fucking show, and I definitely recommend you guys go listen to that also.
Damn straight.
And I don't even, I don't even watch anime. Shit, I don't even have cable. And yet somehow, but I'll listen to the Tsunami Faithful podcast only because, you guys are funny. And hopefully, and speaking of cable, hopefully, because I stepped outside to go see the jets flying overhead, and I did see a Time Warner van parked outside. So hopefully we won't get knocked off the air while we're recording. Because Paul, we're like, it's like a time clock. Like we're recording this while Paul's getting ready to go to work. But speaking of Paul getting ready to go to work at the last minute, what's going on at work, Paul?
So everybody knows what the Affordable Care Act is, right? We all know what that is. That's this stupid little law that basically says, okay, well, it's not a stupid law. It basically gives people car insurance, basically. Mm-hmm. The comedians always made the joke that if you drove into an emergency room, you would get emergency care immediately. Or health care right there immediately. Mm-hmm. So basically, my company works off of this premise that they need to keep part-time employees under 30 hours, because if you go over 30 hours, you have to at least offer some kind of health insurance. Mm-hmm. So at my job, being a part-time manager, I can't go over 30 hours. So my boss has been being really stupid lately and just being like, he'll schedule me for we'll have Avengers, and I'll have 35, 36 hours, and then because he gets an email that says, average for the year and right now is over 30, I only work 3 days. Well, part of my agreement coming back to this place was, okay, I'm going to get 4 days a week, I'm going to get 4 days a week until I get full time. Mm-hmm. And this was a verbal agreement. All the other managers know that I was supposed to be full time, and it's been 2 years, and I'm still not full time. And lately, it's been this is going to be the third week where I've only worked 3 days, and it's not the third week in a row, but it's just I had a conversation with him last week, and I'm like, what's going on? Why am I only getting 3 days? Oh, it's because of such and such email. Okay, I understand that, but now here I am, and
yeah, the bastards are double dipping. I mean,
right.
As in, they hire people to work, and if they hire enough part-time people, of course, then they'll have their hours covered, but then they don't have to go anymore. They don't have to pay you insurance or any other kind of funky benefits.
And that's fine. I don't need insurance. I have insurance through New York State. I had to get it because of the law. Mm-hmm. You had to get insurance or you pay a penalty on your taxes. Well, I already have insurance. That's one of the things I just don't understand is why don't they have something with these companies that are doing it? Because I know my company's not the only one that does that. But I don't understand why they can't just go around that by having their part-time employee sign a sheet that says, look, I already have insurance. I don't need insurance. I don't need benefits. Just give me the hours. As long as it doesn't go over 40, what's the problem?
Yeah.
And they're not doing that.
Well, they don't want.
It's just frustrating.
I mean, unfortunately, the way a lot of people have it is that people will have their medical insurance is basically Medicaid. It's it's through public assistance, and look, I'm not pointing any fingers because that's what I'm doing right now. I don't get paid enough hours, so my insurance is through Medicaid. I mean, right now, I don't have custody of my daughter. The only reason I need medical care is if I'm in an emergency, I guess I was seeing a therapist and that was covered also, but that's to keep me from climbing a clock tower.
Well,
and I guess also doing this podcast kind of keeps me out of trouble.
Well, but, the main reason for me having insurance is because my father has type 2 diabetes. He has leukemia. Well, he doesn't really have leukemia. It's there, but it's dormant, and they caught it even before it started to get active. So, he's still good. He has.
That's one of those deals where, I guess if you're aware of it and you keep getting tested and checked,
right.
Whatever, at least you can.
You can stay in check, basically.
Manage a livable life.
Yes, they can manage it. And my father has such a slew of problems that it's really at this point stupid for me not to have medical insurance because, I want to be ahead of the game if something should happen. Because my grandfather, I believe it was almost 2 years ago, I want to say, he died from, well, this is what happened. He had stage 4 leukemia. They got rid of it. And then a couple months later, he had a stroke. Half of his brain, was unresponsive, and we had to let him go because you can't really live like that.
Gotcha.
And well, he was unconscious anyways. We didn't think he was going to come back. So,
and old school Italians kind of don't.
Yeah. So I mean that's where the issue is because. I don't want it to be caught at the last second. I want it to be caught as soon as possible if it's there. And it probably is because most of my aunts and uncles on my father's side, it looks like they've had it too. So it's kind of like, great. So it's just one of those waiting games where you wait and see if it's going to happen,
Gotcha.
So it kind of sucks, but I mean, it's just, I understand, like, okay, you got to keep the average under a certain number. I get it. I understand. Great. Whatever. But that doesn't, like, I can't go and find another job because I have another job, and I can only work 2 days a week there, and it's just frustrating because I'm sitting here going, I need money. I can't live off of the amount of hours that you're giving me, and my other job only pays me minimum wage. So it's just like, what do you want me to do? Like I'm trying, like, it's like you need to, like, I understand the average has got to be under 30. I get it. But when you schedule me for 30 hours after all 4 half-an-hour breaks, I'm about 27, between 27 and 28 hours. That's way under 30 hours. So I don't see where the problem is here, I don't understand why you would do that to me when another manager is consistently working 4 days a week and is doing about 29 to 30 hours. It's one of those things that just it's really annoying because I came back to this company and I'm making a lot more per hour than I was, and that's great, that's wonderful. But at the end of the day, I need to be able to work there as much as possible to make money because I got to feed my kid. I got to feed I got a family too. I can't live on you doing that kind of thing. Give me consistent. I don't care if it's just you only give me 4 days a week and it's 28 to 30 hours. I want 4 days a week. Yeah. Don't fuck me over here. If I got to work all nights, I got to work all nights. I don't give a shit. Just give me the hours because that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here working. I need the hours. I need the money.
No, don't worry, listeners. The dick and fart jokes are coming, but but you are, and it's part of the show is that we kind of we could talk about stuff like this, but you're against, like, right now in LA. We have, both of us have a lot of internet friends that live in Los Angeles, and in Los Angeles they've just bumped up the minimum wage to $15 an hour.
I think it's not. I don't think it's automatic. It's over a couple years, I believe, if I'm correct. I might be wrong about that, but usually when they do that, it's something that happens over several years.
But you're against that. I mean, that's that.
I'm against it. I'm kind of against. What I'm against is the fact that, for example, oh look, there's a plane going by. Actually, it's probably a car.
No, that's a motorcycle.
See, people,
you could flip a coin. You could stand by my door and flip a coin and hit the fucking highway. But
so what was I saying? So it's not that I'm against wage increases altogether. What I'm against is, for example, here in Rochester, $15 an hour to me for a minimum wage job seems a little bit outlandish because we're a medium-sized city, and we're not like a city like LA or New York City, for example, or even Chicago. These huge cities like that. And that's what I even said on, I believe it was Jody put it up, was the post that he put up. God, what is his last name?
Schaefer?
Jody Schaefer, yeah. I didn't want to get that wrong. I don't want him to come kill me.
Lead animator of Megas XLR, one of the best cartoons ever made. Go on.
Yes. Dropping.
For our listeners who are not unfamiliar.
Right. So for me, I want cities like that to get a wage increase because they desperately need it. The cost of living there is huge. It's substantial. Like, you could, if you're not making $15 an hour, then you're pretty much in poverty if you live in those cities. It's bad. It's really bad.
And then he also released another article. I mean, once again, these are all just speculative articles, but it's like even on $15 an hour, there's no part of Los Angeles that you could still live comfortably in.
Right, but it's a start.
Be living paycheck to paycheck.
It's still a good start. I mean, $15 an hour here, Chris, people could live on that. But there again, here's the thing: we're a medium-sized city, okay? And the reason I'm against wage increases is because, for example, you've been around a long time, Chris. You're older. You're a lot older than me.
It's a nice way of saying you're an old fuck.
But see, here's the thing: you used to be able to go into a gas station, for example, and get a candy bar for 50 cents or 75 cents. One of those size candy bars now is $1.50.
Yeah.
Now, some people might be like, "Oh, well, it's just $1.50," but that's the point I'm trying to make. Things that used to be cheap are not cheap anymore. The dollar menu, there's not that much on the dollar menu anymore.
And now the dollar menu is now those fuckers are trying to sneak it up to like $1.50.
Well, McDonald's apparently is supposed to be doing more stuff on the dollar menu so people will actually come to their restaurant, which, oh my God, revelation, it should have happened a long time ago. But anyways, well,
they need to fire whoever decided to come up with the sexy hamburglar. That was fucking
fuck you. But wow, you're sick. Anyways, I don't know. It's just, to me, and I was saying this to my fiance the other day, yeah, with the wage increase, I could go out and I could afford to pay for my electricity, to pay for my water, to buy a house on a mortgage. $15 an hour, yeah, that would definitely cover a house. If you buy a house between 70 and 100 grand, you're probably going to be able to pay that very easily with $15 an hour as a minimum wage. Here's the problem. If I want to go out and rent an apartment, the price of... Dude, you used to be able to get a studio apartment for like... A good studio apartment for like $550. Now they've jumped like $100, And two-bedroom apartments, you probably used to get that for maybe about $650, $700. Now they're up around $850. You see, do you understand what I'm saying here, Chris? The higher the wage is, the more things increase. Now, yes, there's going to be certain things like if you go and buy a car, that's not going to really increase. Same thing with housing. You're not going to, if you go buy a house for $70,000, it's $70,000. It didn't increase or decrease because of the price. You get the people that sell those houses through like Nothnagel and all them. Those agents are getting commission off of that. So for me, it just makes sense to not increase the wage. And also the other thing that we're not taking into consideration, and I think this is something that will open everybody's eyes when I say this. Where are all the local businesses? Because let me tell you something. New York State is one of the best states for small businesses. Also, if you're foreign, you can get a lot of fucking loans. Okay, I'm not trying to be racist about that. I'm being honest. If you're from another country and you come in here and want to start your own business, your business is probably going to be paid for, at least for the first couple years, because they give out money like it's no tomorrow. But that being said, yeah, I can get small business loans and everything else like that. But how am I supposed to do that when the wage is like, and I imagine that, well, actually, I should say this first. Our governor here in New York State, instead of going through the legislator, went to the Labor Commission, I believe it is, and said to them, I want you to research what the wage should be right now. And if they say, oh, well, the wage should go up, they can supersede the legislator and do it.
Yeah, but I mean, but my thing is, if people have money, they'll spend money. A fool and his money. Don't
get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, Chris. Like, that is true. But here's the problem. You got people that are going to get nursing degrees. And even teaching degrees. They're going to go and get nursing degrees and teaching degrees. And you start out at, like, for example, you can go to the Jewish home and start out at $12 an hour. So you're saying to me that somebody that's gone out and got a degree should be paid $12 an hour? Because they're not going to increase that, Chris. They're not going to increase that. You're saying somebody that's making $15 an hour at a professional level position should be paid the same as a minimum wage worker? Well, do you understand what I'm saying, Chris?
If the minimum wage goes up, then other things go up also.
But that's the problem.
They say, the high tide raises all boats.
Yeah.
If the fucking person flipping burgers at McDonald's makes $15 an hour, then hopefully someone, who is a nursing assistant could get a couple bucks more. Or someone who is an actual nurse, someone who has a job that requires any kind of real skill.
But see, that's the argument that I'm trying to make is there's all these problems with the increase of wages, and I need to agree with Joe. I do agree with Jody on one fact, and that's the fact that all along we should have been increasing the wage so that it would have been a living wage, because then I wouldn't be sitting here bitching on a podcast about it.
Yeah,
I would actually be like, it'd be fine.
You shouldn't be a business if you can't afford. As a business, if you can't afford to have your employees have a living fucking wage, then you shouldn't be a business. You know,
I agree.
You shouldn't be. I mean, of course, it's capitalism and all this other bullshit. But I mean, it's also. I mean, once again, the high tide raises all boats. I mean, you got to pay the fucking people, because what's happening? The low man on the totem pole gets fucked. The big bosses, the people that have 15 people you got to get to before you finally get to them, those people are living just fine. And you know what? If they got a little less this year than last year, they're still gonna do just fine.
Well, I'm not.
Not that I'm Mr. fucking Marxist socialist, but you got to spread that fucking. You got to spread that shit around, man.
I totally agree, though. But here's the thing. If we're making $15 an hour, Chris, if I get $15, if a minimum wage worker gets $15 an hour, as a manager, I should be getting at least $2 to $3 more, and that's not happening. That's not going to happen, because these businesses are going to be like, no, and they're going to lose. And see, that's the problem. Like, even to bring this all back together, like, that's the problem with this whole Affordable Care Act thing. And I've actually, I wrote President Obama about this, and I got one of those bullshit emails back, just general emails. Oh, the Affordable Care Act, blah, 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 blah. The requirement on that act should be pushed back so that it says 48 hours. Okay, at least 38, because here's the problem. These employers are going to the letter about this stuff, and people like me that are working hard, that are doing our job right, are getting fucked.
Exactly.
Yeah, and here's the thing: as the wage goes up, my fucking money that I'm getting paid is less. Right now, I should be making $3 more. I should be probably making more than minimum. I should be making at least $3 more than minimum wage, and I'm not even hitting that. And I wish I was, because it makes more sense. If I'm a manager, I have the experience, I'm doing my job, I should be then making more money, because in the end, I'm actually doing my job. I'm actually doing the things that you asked me to do. I'm doing it correctly, and I'm not making too many mistakes to where I should be thrown out the door, And that's where my problems come into this, because there's just so much bad things that could come out of this right now. I mean, look at we're trying to get more people educated. We're trying to get more people to go to college. Hell, I believe, I don't know if the law went through or any law has been put in place, but President Obama was saying doing, I believe it's your first 2 years in college, they would pay for that if you went to college. Like, that's awesome, because other countries pay for your education.
Yeah.
I mean, hello, you're going to have to go to this kind of system here pretty soon, is if you increase the wage. It's like the minimum wage, like the federal minimum wage. The minimum wage that everybody has to put federal minimum wage at. And I know New York State is different now because they're higher than the federal. But let's say the federal wage goes, they automatically say, no, fuck it, it's $15 an hour. Like, you're going to see businesses start dropping like this. If they're not making a lot of profit, even if they are making just a little profit or medium-sized profit, they're going to be gone. You're going to barely see any businesses out there unless it's a corporation. And also, you're going to barely see anybody in college. You're going to barely see anybody other than having a high school degree out there, because why would you go get that when you can get paid $15 an hour to flip a burger? Yeah. Why would you do that when you could pay $15 an hour to go, like me, for my second job, be an employee at a gas station?
Yeah, but I mean, if you're making $15 an hour, maybe you might have that kind of money to go back to school. I mean, there's enough. I have enough friends.
Chris,
I mean, I'm fucking 37, and I still have friends that are like, I'm going back to school. I'm going back. I still have people, and I do have some friends that that literally have been like, they're taking one class at a time. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I'm going to be honest with you. Kelsey has a CNA, and she has to recertify for it at some point. But if she wasn't in the situation she was in, okay, with having to take care of her daughter every single day, she would be working still. And here's the thing, nurses get paid fucking good around here. I would go, if I knew that, if I didn't think that wages were going to go up substantially, I would go and I would go back to school, get a CNA, just at least get a CNA, and go do nursing as a male nurse. Because you know what? $12 an hour? Yeah, that'll pay for some stuff. Mm-hmm. And it would be full time. I wouldn't have to worry about it. Oh, well, you don't have any, they don't give a shit, dude. They don't give a shit. They're like, you want benefits? Here you go. You're working 40 hours? Great. Here you go. You know, then you don't have to put up with that shit, you know?
So, yeah, I mean, my thing is, Paul, I mean, like I just said, you know, basically, if people make money, people will spend money, and then the cycle of life, will come back.
This isn't The Lion King, but continue.
I just, before we go to break, I just wanted to quote. Now, I didn't ask permission if I can use this, but it's a friend of mine on Facebook. He posted this on Facebook, so he put it out there. So I'll give him his credit. His name he goes by the name Zachary Byron Helm. That's Zachary Byron Helm, and he was talking about like wage, you know, how much people get paid. And let me just read this real quick. He goes, let's look at it like this. And he's talking about how businesses don't want to pay you what you're worth. He goes, let's look at it like this. You run a car dealership and you're selling a Corvette. I come in and go, okay, I like the Vet. It performs how I want it to, but I would like it at the price of a 1984 Honda with a bad head gasket. I would like to pay you the price of the Honda and take home the Corvette. And as long as the Corvette performs or exceeds my expectations, I'll come back and pay you for what it's worth in a couple of years or two. So I just like that idea. You know, like when you are applying for a job or something like that, and then, you know, the first offer they give you, you're like, you know, I'd like to make more. And then they go, oh, well, we'll pay you more if you perform better. You know, if you perform X amount, you know, then we'll pay you. Like, you know, they dangle that fucking carrot in front of you. Right. And I kind of like that analogy. You know what I'm saying? No, pay me what it's fucking worth now. You know, you couldn't walk into a store and say, you know, let me buy this Corvette for a Honda price. And if it continues to perform like a Corvette, then I'll pay the Corvette price later on. You know, pay me what I'm worth, goddammit. I come to fucking work. I mean, I always talk shit like I hate my job, and I do hate my job, but I also count my blessings, and I do appreciate the fact that I am fucking employed. And
yeah, I mean, I don't see, and
I shouldn't have to fucking struggle to fucking live. You know?
Right, and you know, we shouldn't have. Well, see, here's the thing, like, and it's the bullshit part about this whole thing, and I think this is the best reason that we need to look at these kinds of things, because you can make more not having a job, being on welfare, than you can just working a regular job, working two jobs.
Yeah, because
you know what,
two jobs and you pay insurance. And
yeah, it's just bullshit. It's very much bullshit, and that's the problem right now. Is, you know, you can't get anything for free anymore. But if we increase the amount of money that we pay somebody, you're fucked. You're fucked, because then everything else is going to go up. And, you know, I just hope that these companies, including mine, get the picture that you're losing your best employees because you're doing this kind of shit. You're not retaining these employees. And if you want to retain these employees, you need to do something about it, because at the end of the day, you're not going to have those employees that are probably good enough that they could be a district manager. They could be a general manager of your place. They could be a district manager. Hell, they could even be a corporate person, and that was the best decision you ever made. But because you only put them at 30 hours, they went, fuck this, and found a better job that paid them more and gave them 40 hours, you know? So that's the point I want to make.
And we'll be back with the second half of the show, the nerdy news. Like I said, the dick and fart jokes are coming, so we'll be back with more dick and fart jokes.
This episode of Two Strangers, One Podcast is brought to you by Comics Etc., 1115 East Main and North Goodman at the Hungerford Building, door number 8. Find out more information at comicsetc.biz or like them on Facebook at facebook.com/comicsetc1.
Click and Hit, enhancing the experience for all recreational smokers. Click and Hit is a one-handed portable vaporizer. This smoking pipe has a compact 4-stage design, complete with a built-in, windproof, butane refillable torch lighter. The large burn chamber holds your stash of legal herb or pipe tobacco. Click the button to ignite and inhale as usual. When you are done, put it back in your pocket for later. Smoke anytime with the touch of a button. No more carrying around grinders and tins. You can leave the pipe, rolling papers, and even your lighter at home. The Click and Hit cordless vaporizer is no bigger than a normal cigar, making it the world's smallest and most discreet vaporizer. It's perfect for use in small places or shared rooms. It's efficient, getting 5 to 8 draws from your packed chamber. It's affordable at just $19.95 each. Buy 3 and the shipping is free. Buy 4 and you get the 5th one free. Visit www.click-hit.com. That's clickandhit.com. And now for listeners of Two Strangers One Podcast, you can use promo code STRANGERS and receive 10% off your purchase at clickandhit.com. That's promo code STRANGERS for 10% off your purchase.
And we're back. So as we were talking about, I always talk about, as we were talking about before the show, the listener wasn't there before the show, but as we were talking about before the show, Mad Max Fury Road. And now, not to take money. What was that?
I've heard some. I've actually heard that it's a very good movie visually and sound wise, and it's actually a lot better than people are making it out to be. Apparently, I know the one guy that does reviews for me gave it a 6 out of 10, so I'm kind of like, eh.
Well, I mean, the last time I heard, it's got like a mid to upper 90s on Rotten Tomatoes. And now here's my deal. Here you are talking about your job and me as a person who, one of the things, I guess, and it's not really a luxury, but if I'm gonna be at home, I'm gonna have my internet. I don't even have cable, but I have my internet, and as having the internet, that means if I know where to go, I can watch TV shows, I can watch movies. So let's just say I've seen the first hour of Mad Max Fury Road. It fell off a truck. Now, the version that I am watching is not in English. It's in Russian. Now, these movies, George Miller, the director, and he's made all these movies. He had made the original, and from what I understand, even this one, where his experience of going to the movies when he was a kid, like he used to go to drive-ins, so he wanted to make an action-packed movie. But sometimes back in the day, when you went into the drive-in, you would have a broken speaker or a speaker that doesn't work the best. So he wanted to make movies that were visually intriguing and to make movies that you didn't like. Let's just say you happen to drive and get the bad speaker. You can watch the movie and kind of get an idea of what's going on screen without actually having to hear what's going on. So here I am. I'm getting the experience, and of course, maybe when I get a couple bucks, I will go see it in the theater, or if somebody lets me in the theater. But you would.
I don't know what you're talking about.
With that being said, I've been watching the Russian version, for the lack of a better term, and I've been putting it on before I go to. I've seen this movie so far like in 3 segments. It's not that it's a bad movie. I don't, in no way, shape, or form am I saying it's bad, but it's not. Maybe you gain more when you watch the English version, but everyone's talking about how fucking great it is, and once again, maybe my experience will change once I see the American English version in the theater or whatever the case may be. But the version I'm seeing right now isn't that great. Does it look spectacular? Yes. The cars look fucking fantastic. Yes. And you would think this would be right in my wheelhouse, pardon the pun. This would be right up my alley on what I like. I like action movies. I like fucking, post-apocalyptic, shit, and it's funny, as we're recording this, my basic cable package, and not even basic cable, I get like the broadcast channels. And one of the channels that I get is the Bounce Network. And on Bounce right now, I swear to God, as we're recording this, they're giving Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. And I like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. You know what I'm saying? I like The Road Warrior. I mean, the original Mad Max was a little fucking odd. But, my point is, I'm not shitting on Fury Road because it's not a movie that I like. I actually like the movies that came before it. Even though Fury Road isn't a direct sequel, it's sort of in the same universe. It's basically a nice way of saying, we didn't want this to be a sequel because we didn't have to worry about all the problems that were in the other movies. We kind of wanted to do our own thing, but it's it's somewhat in the same universe. George Miller said, "Oh, these are legends of the Mad Max. All these stories," which it's a nice way of saying, we want to make a Mad Max movie without having to be burdened by the first 3 and having to follow every logistical storyline, or as logistical as you can get with a car and a guy shooting, a flamethrower out of his guitar. But what I've seen so far, I'll be honest with Fury Road, I'm not as impressed as the internet would have you to believe. But like I said, I haven't been watching the proper version that's been set up for me. And also, with that being said, a lot of people, it's funny how like Fury Road comes out and all of a sudden everybody's shitting on Beyond Thunderdome. Like I've noticed, the movie was so bad. And, people compare it to the Return of the Jedi the Star Wars trilogy, the original trilogy, where they say, oh, that's the one where they sold out. That's the one that was kind of pandering to kids, where the other first two were rated R. This one was PG-13. And maybe, maybe that marketing worked the same way Return of the Jedi worked, that here I am at 37 and I'm still a fucking Star Wars fan. I didn't see anything wrong with Beyond Thunderdome. Other than the fact that, yeah, it's a little fucking out there. But in no way, shape, or form would I think it's like a bad movie or a stupid movie, or I don't know. Like I'm watching it right now. My TV's on. It's on mute, but it's on. I watch it every time I come across it. I think it's a great movie, and I'm pretty sure once I watch Fury Road properly, I will like that movie also. But it's such a weird shift how now that Fury Road came out, everyone's shitting on Beyond Thunderdome. I'm like, Beyond Thunderdome was a good movie. I like Master Blaster. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's definitely, except for Fury Road of the Mad Max original trilogy, it was definitely the most produced. It had the biggest budget. It's filmed the best. I just can't believe that. All of a sudden Fury Road comes out and people shitting on Beyond Thunderdome. Beyond Thunderdome's a good movie. God damn it. So before,
we should talk about. I was going to say we should talk about the fact that somebody was on David Letterman.
Oh yeah, so okay, so I have a couple things like that in my show notes. I'm probably going to put it out on the Stranger vlog, but and also while you're going online, you could go on YouTube and search for top 10 reasons to hate Jimmy Fallon. It's a video I made. I actually spent it's actually a produced video. I spent a lot of fucking time working on it. So when you get a chance, check out top 10 reasons to hate Jimmy Fallon. But an end of an era. David Letterman, the last standout of the old guys. David Letterman, this is a guy that was on at the same time as Johnny Carson. This was a guy that I think even got his job because of Johnny Carson. He was where Johnny Carson in his day was the irreverent one, as times passed, but by the time, we grew up in the 80s and 90s or whatever, Johnny Carson started becoming more of the stiff industry guy, like the standard, I don't want to say boring because that's not the right word, but he became more of like the face of the company or late night standards. And then David Letterman was the odd one, the goofball, the goofy one. And it was such a great, back in the day, David Letterman, of course there's all outlandish shit, stupid pet tricks. And they used to take high-speed cameras and throw fucking watermelons off of buildings. I remember as a kid watching, David Letterman, run. He had a whole suit made out of like Velcro, and then he jumped on a trampoline and stuck himself to a wall that was made out of Velcro. It's stuff like that, were at the time, by nowadays standards and in the internet standards, it was the internet before the internet. It was him doing goofy shit, so people can talk about it. And there was a time, once again, before the internet where, people would videotape this stuff. I would record David Letterman, on the nights where when I was young enough to, I didn't stay up every night because I had school the next morning, but I would record him, especially in high school. I would have to say in high school, me and my, everyone has kind of when they go to school, some people have best friends that they have in high school. My best friend in high school, his name was Eric. Him and I, it was a big thing for us to try to make each other laugh. It would be where we would, send notes back and forth, and he would, and part of our little inside jokes, and it turned into a whole series of inside jokes. People listening to us, or if our notes ever got intercepted to each other, people wouldn't know what the fuck we were talking about because we kind of had our own language. And so this is back in 1996, I believe. It was the year that Independence Day came out, so I'm pretty sure it was 96. It was Will Smith promoting Independence Day. It was Demi Moore, who was promoting striptease, but her head was shaved because at that time she was filming G.I. Jane. And even though it wasn't on that particular episode, Prince performed. It was actually Prince was performing just so they could have the musical guest segment for the next day. So it was fucking awesome. Now, we'd always wanted to be on David Letterman, and that was back in the day when you actually had to write letters. You had to write on physical snail mail to get tickets, and it was and consideration always went towards people that were like tourists. People were like, oh, I'm coming from Wichita, Kansas, visiting New York City. I would like to go see a David Letterman taping. So just out of sake of like tourism, stuff like that, people who were coming out of state tended to get preferential treatment, but they did have a standby audience. So this was July the 3rd or I want to say July the 3rd. It wasn't the 4th because I remember Independence Day got bumped up like a day early. So me and my buddy Eric, we got there. The standby line started, I want to say, about like 10 o'clock. So we'd gotten there at 10 o'clock, and we had actually stood outside in the middle of July. And this was, it's not Times Square, but the Ed Sullivan Theater where they record the David Letterman show was just just off of Times Square. We stood out there from 10 o'clock in the morning till 5 o'clock. So that was like, 7 hours we stood outside. And as you wait there, the people who work there, like the small time people, use like that entrance where you stood outside the theater. Of course, the big guests always went out to the side. But people who watch David Letterman, you always see they would kind of have like an alleyway down the side of the road on I forgot the name of the street, but. So what happens is, they would come out, they would get your information. And I just learned this recently that like they wanted to see who was in the standby line because basically they wanted to see if they could put people in the audience that were like interesting looking or anyone that might have like a funny story to share. So usually if you ever watched David Letterman and you saw him messing with people in the audience, it was those people were usually people from the standby line, or if someone on the staff kind of knew a story that someone was interesting to mess with. So on that particular episode that me and my buddy Eric, we finally got in. We were first and second on line, so we were definitely going to get in. It was also kind of weird to think that July the 3rd, a lot of people are in fucking New York City. I mean, we didn't think that maybe more people would be in the city and maybe we wouldn't get in. But like if all the people who had tickets would show up, because the standby line was to fill the seats of the people who didn't show up even though they had tickets, because it's free, so it's okay. People, if you had a free ticket, why you don't? There's no immediacy on showing up to a show. So me and Eric ended up sitting like basically dead center of the screen. And when you're filming the show, the camera, you have the stage right in front of you, but there's also screens there. Where you could actually, when the camera pans to the audience and you can see yourself. So I had told my friend Eric, I said, look, man, the next time the camera looks at me, and the whole thing is like they kept showing like me. I posted a little clip on my Facebook, and I'm probably going to put it out on a Stranger vlog. But basically, I told my friend, I said, if they show me one more time, I'm going to go crazy. I'm going to start throwing my hands in the air. So my friend Eric said, he was, we were 19 at the time. So it's like, do it. So as soon as the camera panned back to us, I lost my shit and throwing my hands in the air. Yeah. And my friend Eric, and it's so weird to see those old pictures of him because like he actually had his hair was like dyed or whatever. Like he had like blondish hair, very, very grungy 90s style. Him and I just start losing our shit. So of course the audience starts laughing because, we're 2 seconds ago, we look all calm and peaceful. Now we're just, yeah. So David Letterman goes, "That's right," and I got in once again just to show what a comedic genius he was, because he had no idea that we were going to start losing our shit. And of course, they could have edited that out. They could have said, "Hey, stop being an asshole." They could have cut those 2 seconds out of the show and kept recording. David Letterman goes, "That's right, school's out," and the audience goes crazy. Now, mind you, I'm a fat bastard. So he goes, you see him, he kind of stutters for a second.
No, I could never tell that you were a fast bastard. No.
I've always been a fat bastard. Even when I was thin, I was a fat bastard. But he goes, student athletes of the NCAA, ladies and gentlemen, basically it was a fat joke. Like David Letterman kind of did a very, very smart fat joke on me. Because I was big and my buddy Eric was thin. So, I mean, just that shows you the kind of fucking comic genius that he had, because he vamped. He improv that. There's no way he had intentionally expected me and my friend Eric to fucking lose our shit. And when we did lose our shit, he kind of, kept it going. They didn't kick us out of the theater. And actually, when you watch more of that show, because bits of that episode are online, because like I said, there was Demi Moore was on that show promoting striptease, but there's a part like she goes and she does like one-armed push-ups, and then there's a scene where later on I guess that a couple months earlier they had Bruce Willis on. This was back when she was married to Bruce Willis, where David Letterman had filmed Bruce Willis. They had basically goofed on Bruce Willis. Like they had him come out wearing a dress, and like she's smashing the tape. So you see the camera comes back to the audience, and you still see me there. They could have easily kicked this out and just edited that out. But what happens is right at the end of the clip, I throw up the peace sign, and I guess maybe the editor, whoever was directing it, must have thought I was like flipping him the bird, because it goes to me. I throw up the peace sign. And then they zoom over. You see like people in the audience kind of go like, and like, no, I wasn't giving a middle finger. I was giving a peace sign. So, and much like the listeners who've been following the show and to our new people, I was on an episode of the Jack and Triumph show. So I'm just destined to be on TV.
Nobody cares about that. God,
I'm TV's. I want to be known as TV's Chris Cologne. Because now also, and I've been downloading clips or whatever. There is a George Carlin special. It's called Back in Town, and me and my brother went to go see it, and it was in the Beacon Theater, and I want to say that was also in '96. Where you could see my big head in the theater. I mean, and the weird thing was that me and my brother actually stand out because for whatever reason, I guess maybe because we were going out to like a theater to go see George Carlin, me and my brother fucking wore ties to see George Carlin, like the biggest anti-establishment fucking, personality on the planet, and I guess we just thought, oh, we're going out to a theater, we're going to go see George Carlin, we should wear ties. So you see, two guys wearing ties, and you see my big, gigantic fucking head. So I'll probably put that in a clip also. I'm saying it now, and I hope I don't just get lazy and don't make the video, but I'll have
probably going to get lazy and not make the video.
But I'll have clips from the Jack and Triumph show. I'll have that clip from David Letterman, and I have to freeze frame the George.
Gee, I wonder who gave you that clip.
Oh yeah, thank you very much.
That was Caboose, actually.
Well, you asked Caboose to get it for me, so
yeah, I was like, Caboose, grab that clip.
Make it work, goddammit. So I mean, you're thank you for listening to the podcast now, people, because you're destined to see my big fat face on TV. I'm gonna be on TV one day, goddammit. Even if it's like, I mean, of course I want to direct movies and shit like that. That's my dream. But even if it's me being interviewed on TV because of the movies I'm directing. Now I had always had it. I always wanted to get famous, where I would go on David Letterman's show and I would say, hey Dave, I was on this show years ago, and then they would show that clip, but I guess that's never going to happen.
Oh, I'm sorry, you were still talking.
What? Hey, you talked about your boss for like half an hour. I can talk about.
Well, you're sitting here talking about like, oh yeah, I'm going to be famous one day. I'm going to direct some stuff. Let me jerk off while I'm talking about it. Sorry, I got to bust your balls about that. I'm sorry.
And people can use this audio like this is before I started. Before I do climb a clock tower. And people like
Paul said all this bad stuff about me. I'm climbing the clock tower.
Back when. But so that's my whole David Letterman story. And it does feel like an end of an era. I mean, he was very, very funny. He was in his time the irreverent guy, the guy who was doing goofy shit that people were like, what the fuck is this guy doing? I mean, he outlasted. I mean, there was a million fucking Arsenio Hall came and went.
Kind of Leno.
Jay Leno came and went. And he got fucked over by Jay Leno the same way Conan O'Brien got fucked over by Jay Leno. He was the last holdout, the last gentleman, and it's weird to say last gentleman because I mean he is establishment now, but I mean he was the standout back then, and I guess after you either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Okay,
and not that he lived long enough to see himself become the villain, but he was, and he had controversy. I mean there was controversy that he was like having sex with one of his like interns or one of his assistants, like basically one of the people that work at the theater, and look, it takes fucking.
If you're doing this like every single week, you're probably gonna want to get laid. So
yeah, it takes two to tango. I mean, people are like, oh, he was a married man and all the bullshit, but his life was very public. I mean, actually not public because I don't know if you remember. Do you remember in the 80s and late 80s, early 90s? He had a stalker. David Letterman that kept like breaking into his house or coming to his house. Like he had like this one woman that just, for whatever reason, the cops didn't take it seriously, and luckily, like she didn't do anything dangerous to him. But David Letterman had like this one stalker that kept coming back, and that was, and he wanted his privacy. But I'm just saying the people who the woman he had an affair with. Look, sweetheart, you don't try to sit and act like, and I don't think she was trying to act like she was a victim, but she knew he was a married man. So, if you're going to let that power, some people are just attracted to power. I mean, if you're going to let that power make your panties moist, I mean, that's on you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, of course, David Letterman should have been a better husband or whatever. But, like I said, it takes...
Shit happens. What are you going to do?
It takes two to tango. You know what I'm saying? So, he's had problems with crazy women stalking him. He's had, he's had affairs and stuff like that. I mean, like, he's no angel. In no way will history, not that history, it's funny, like, you get older, and you get, or like after you pass away, all of a sudden, all of your sins magically disappear. But...
yeah, okay.
Well, I'm just saying, there are people who like always remember once somebody passes.
Look at Bill Cosby, and I'm going to tell you something right now. Next podcast, we need to bitch about all that shit that's happening with Bill Cosby, because look at this guy. This guy was fine for all these years, and then a year or two ago, all of a sudden it exploded into 50,000 women like, oh, he sexually harassed me, or he raped me, oh, he touched me inappropriately. It's just like, shut up.
He came from a time where, things were a lot different. Shit like that happened, and it didn't. But my thing was that, in agreeing with Hannibal Buress's, the guy who kind of like, this all was kind of floating around, but the guy who really brought the spotlight on it, with Hannibal Buress, is that, Bill Cosby did kind of have that holier than thou attitude. His kind of claim to fame was, oh, I do family friendly stuff, which he did. He made tons of family friendly entertainment, but then he kind of like wagged his finger at other comedians. Even like and we've talked about this like a long time ago. Even Eddie Murphy had a whole bit in his act in the fucking late '80s about how Bill Cosby called him up and said, you can't say filth, flarn, filth. So
that's the thing. Like,
it's documented that Bill Cosby kind of was wagging his finger at people. Yet he's probably the most guilty fuck.
I don't know about that, dude. Like, I'm, and we'll say this for next podcast, but pretty much like, I don't think that it's so absurd now that I don't even think that he did anything with any of these women, especially that fucking hobbit that keeps trying to sue him and shit. I'm sitting there looking. They put it up on CNN, the article, and I'm like, who would want to date a hobbit? Like, who would want to touch that? You've had so much plastic surgery, and everybody else is the same way. They're like, just give it a rest. The statute of limitation is up. You just want him to sit there and say that he raped you when he probably didn't. Oh, by the way, you've caused this. You're suing him for defamation of character. If he sues you for defamation of character, you're fucked. He will have all of your money. So all that money that you got him out of because you stopped him from having all these gigs because people don't want that bullshit. Oh, dude, he's gonna be a fucking rich man in his old age, even older age. But anyways, let's stop that, because if we do that, we're gonna continue going on.
Well, I'm just saying is I think one of the women is trying to look for charges in like Jersey where there is no statute of limitations. So if she gets her,
I highly doubt it. I highly doubt it. It would have been brought if it was, because
I mean it's gonna be hard to find evidence though.
Right. But anyways, yes, we need to get out of here.
Gotcha. So please visit twostrangersonepodcast.net where you can find all things show related. First and foremost, our iTunes. The big granddaddy iTunes, the big monstrous monolith that sits there in front of on everyone's fucking computer. You can find the link to our iTunes page, and of course, you could actually go and visit the iTunes store, people, and go to and search for Two Strangers One Podcast. You see our beautiful red, white, and blue logo. Once again, thank you and welcome to all the new listeners. This show actually goes back well over 3 years ago. So you can go back and if you choose to, and say, I like the show so much, I want to go back to the very beginning. You can go back and listen to what we were talking about, or should I say what I was talking about 3 years ago. Then if you don't have iTunes is great if you have an iPhone, iPad, or iPod. If you don't have an iPhone, iPad, or iPod, and you're like me and you're Team Android as opposed to being Team iPhone, you could download the Stitcher app for Google. That's STITCHER, the Stitcher app for Google. All these nights that I've been working with my job, working the night shift, working on the night shift, you can
I was going with the music.
The option is the listen later option on the Stitcher app. So you can find the podcast you want to listen to, hit listen later. When you're not if you're in a Wi-Fi spot, download all the not all the episodes. It keeps a track of the 10 most recent episodes. Which, how much, and you could go further if you want to, but it automatically lists the 10 most recent episodes. You click the listen later option, and then when you're not in your Wi-Fi spot, so you're not killing your battery, you're not killing your data plan if you're a person like me that actually has the limited data plan, and listen later. And let me tell you, my phone will be dying. Like the battery is just like ready to go. And yet, if you're just listening to audio, your battery can go pretty, I've gone for fucking like 2 hours with my phone in the fucking red zone, and I'm still listening to podcasts because it's the middle of the night and I got to keep myself occupied before I kill somebody. Yeah.
It's called a charger.
Yeah. Well, I'm busy. I'm on the floor. I'm walking around. Okay.
So you can't put a charger behind the desk and charge it while you're doing stuff.
No, I'm work. I guess I could actually put the phone down for like half an hour and let it charge, but no.
Exactly.
But I'm a child.
But anyways, continue.
You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/2strangers1podcast. That's all spelled out, 2strangers1podcast. Of course, we would like your money, but if you don't have your money, you can just share us. It takes 2 seconds to share our page or this particular episode, the link to this episode. Any little bit helps. If you're on Twitter, you can find us on Twitter at Stranger Podcast. That's the @ symbol, Stranger Podcast. And also, if you would like to write to us, you can write us at 2strangers1podcast at gmail.com. All spelled out. That's 2strangers1podcast at gmail.com. If you have any comments, any criticisms if you have a Kickstarter you want to promote, anything. That's if you want to promote your podcast, anything like that.
Ching, advertising money for us. Anyways,
you can reach out to us at 2strangers1podcast at gmail.com. And that's all I can think of. I acquiesce the floor to you, sir.
All right, so you can find me on Twitter at Paul Pascrillo. My last name is spelled Pescrilloo. You can find me on Instagram, instagram.com/Paul Pascrillo. I actually started packing for MomoCon because I know I'm going to be fucking... I know I'll be crazy and forget shit, so I was like, put the mics in now, put the shirts in now, put this thing in now, so that way I don't forget them. I'll be putting stuff up on Instagram, including me going to the airport and shit and whatnot, so look for that next week. Let's see. And you can ask me questions on my Ask. It's ask.fm/Paul Pascrillo. Please ask me some Toonami questions. Ask me, I think I'm kind of an expert now on Toonami, at least this Toonami. And, ask me non-Toonami questions like, hey, what you think of the new Avengers? And I'll be like, I didn't watch it yet.
And then also just letting people know that your other podcast, the Toonami Faithful Podcast, is also available on Stitcher.
Yes.
I always mention that, and I forgot to mention that this episode.
I am part of the other podcast. It's called Toonami Faithful Podcast. Better than Pre-Flight. I didn't say that. You can go there. You can listen to us on iTunes. You can listen to us on Stitcher. And I was also going to add something in. I found this app called Overcast, and a couple people actually are using that instead of any of the other ones. If you can't do it on SoundCloud for the Toonami Faithful Podcast, or even this one you can't do, you can't do Stitcher or iTunes, you can use the Overcast app. And I think it's just for iPhone. And you can use that app to get all of the episodes as well of both podcasts, 2 Strangers, 1 Podcast, and Toonami Faithful Podcast. So please do that. But that's about it. Like I said, I'll be going to MomoCon next weekend, so... Oh, God. This is going to be a crazy weekend coming up. Not this weekend, but next weekend. So
nice. So we certainly hope you guys enjoyed listening and had as much fun as we did recording. Thank you for listening to 2 Strangers, 1 Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Paul.
Don't be a stranger.
Peace. Bro.
Bye. You should be fapping.
And sucking my nipples.
That's actually not.
All right, here we go, man. Go ahead. You want to read
Double
it?
Jackpot.
What is it?
It is a self-published book by Christopher Cologne.
Chris Cologne smells good to me.
But
Look at her. That broke that fucking cold little exterior. He's like, hee.
But it is spelled Colon.
Him punny.
But Double Jackpot is a book about a comic book artist, Eric, who is in a loveless relationship with a materialistic
I feel you, Eric.
Lynette.
Oh, fucking. Are you sure I didn't write this? Sounds hauntingly familiar.
He starts cheating on his girlfriend with a more creatively supportive woman, Nadia.
Well, I gotta meet her. Where's the Nadia?
There's your summer girlfriend.
Summer Nadia is Nadia.
Nadia?
Yeah, I think Nadia spelled with an A.
All right.
Both Lynette and Nadia play the double jackpot, the largest payout in lotto history, much like the recent Powerball. Both girls play his birth date as the winning numbers. Eric is now stuck between two of the country's richest women. Who will he choose? It's not that simple. This is a clever fucking idea,
Yeah,
man.
is.
Look at her, fucking. She's impressed.
I am.
She got some summer reading. Christopher Cologne smells real lovely with an original idea. This is. I've never heard this before.
I haven't either. This is a self-published book, much in the indie spirit as Kev's Clerks.
Oh, you don't even need to name check me. It's just a good idea. You could stand on your own, man. You don't even have to be like, hey, remember Clerks? This is nothing like that. This is way more original than Clerks. This is a good idea, man. Why didn't I think of this?
I need something to read. This book is part of the Comic Books, Heavy Metal, Video Games Trilogy Book 2. Odd I See, A Tale from the Road, coming soon.
Right on, man. It's part of a trilogy. This is the first part.
Way to write, man.
He's seeking a literary agent. Motherfuckers, anybody out there? There ain't no literary agents listening to this show, I assure you, sure. Sure. I assure you, sure. But somebody know a literary agent? Hook a motherfucker up! Chris Cologne come up with an original idea. I should tell Raskin. That's a good fucking idea, to be honest with you. That's a fucking rom-com right there. Megan, get Raskin on the phone. Isn't it possible to get Raskin on the phone? No?
Yeah.
I want to run it past him, man. I want to, and if it happens, I get a taste, Chris Cologne. I get a whiff, if you will.
The book could also be ordered on www.lulu.com.
That's lulu.com.
I understand that. I just want to spell it out.
Normally one says it, that spells it. Still, lulu.com. What is that? Do you know what it is?
I don't know. All right. The book could also be ordered on www.lulu.com. Search for Double Jackpot Christopher Cologne. A paperback version of the book is $15 and a PDF file is only $5.
$5 is
Yeah.
insanely inexpensive. 15's not even that bad for a paperback version.
No.
This is $1 million idea right here. Like a movie about a dude who fucking is stuck between two chicks, both of who play his birthday and win the lottery. Come on! I can see that trailer. Chris Cologne is on to something. Nobody else can smell it but me.
I'll read it.
Thank you. I'm going to make that smelly joke.
I know. You're trying to get me to laugh again.
It worked once. Double Jackpot is a self-published book by Chris Cologne, man. It's the first book in his Comic Books, Heavy Metal, Video Games trilogy. Book 2, Odd I See, A Tale from the Road, should be coming out soon. Get all the information at Chris Cologne, like a motherfucker.
I will
his
totally
book,
read this.
Double Jackpot. I'm serious. I'm going to recommend that to fucking Raskin. How is that not a movie? You know what I'm saying? This could be a sexy movie. You could do an R-rated version. There could be nudity in it, and you could show them fucking both chicks. Maybe a little penetration. Maybe a butthole shot. No butthole, no care.
I would like to formally apologize to Christopher Cologne.
No, sex sells. Chris Cologne will appreciate that. He's like, thanks for throwing a few buttholes in there, man.
Don't forget to check out twostrangersonePodcast.net, your one-stop resource for everything show-related. You can find links to subscribe to us on iTunes or on Stitcher. You could also find links to buy my book, Double Jackpot, on twostrangersonepodcast.net.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. And fuck you, I'm out.